Chapter 2. Mrs. Who. Woof, woof, woof. Bring smack. 3. It must have been a dream. I was frightened by the storm, so I dreamed I went down to the kitchen. And Mrs. What's-it, and Mother getting so upset about what was it? Test something. Sizzle, sizzle. Where's Charles? Still asleep. We had rather an interrupted night, if you remember. I hoped it was a dream. No, Meg, don't hope that. I don't understand it either, but one thing I've learned is that you don't have to understand things for them to be. I'm sorry I showed you I was upset. Your father and I had a joke about Tesseract. What is a Tesseract? It's a concept. I'll explain it later. There isn't time before school. I don't see why you didn't wake us. It's not fair we missed out on all the fun. You'll be a lot more awake in school than I will. Who cares? If you're going to let old tramps come inside in the middle of the night, Dan and I should be around to protect you. Father would expect us to. You have a great mind and all, Mother, but you don't have much sense, and clearly Meg and Charles don't. I know we're morons. Don't take everything so personally, Meg. Use a happy medium for once. You just make everything harder for yourself. Like at school, you just goof off and look out the window. And Charles Wallace, he's going to have an awful time next year when he starts school. We know he's bright, but he's so funny around other people, and they're so used to thinking he's dumb. I don't know what's going to happen to him. Let's not worry about next year till we get through this one. More French toast, boys? Will you please name the principal imports and exports of Nicaragua? No, not you, Amy. Meg? Meg? Meg. Oh. The principal imports and exports of Nicaragua? Well? Who cares about the imports and exports of Nicaragua anyhow? What seems to be the problem now, Meg? Miss Porter tells me you were inexcusably rude. Don't you realize that you just make everything harder for yourself with that attitude? I'm convinced you can do the work and keep up with your grade if you apply yourself, but some of your teachers are not. You're going to have to do something about yourself. No one can do it for you. Well, what about it, Meg? Meg, is something troubling you? Are you unhappy at home? Everything's fine at home. Had any news from your father lately? Just what was your father's line of business? Some kind of scientist, wasn't he? He is a physicist. Meg, don't you think you'd make a better adjustment to life if you faced facts? I do face facts. They're a lot easier to face than people, I can tell you. Then why don't you face facts about your father? You leave my father out of it. Stop bellowing. Do you want the entire school to hear you? I'm not ashamed of anything I'm saying. Are you? Do you enjoy being the most belligerent, uncooperative child in school? Mr. Jenkins, you've met my mother, haven't you? She's a scientist. You can't accuse her of not facing facts. She has doctor's degrees in both biology and bacteriology. Her business is facts. When she tells me that my father isn't coming home, I'll believe it. As long as she says father is coming home, I'll believe that. Very well. I can't do anything else with you. Go on back to class, try to be a little less antagonistic. Maybe your work would improve if your general attitude were more tractable. Meg! Hello, Fort. Come on, let's go. Where? I thought we'd better go see Mrs. Whatsit. Oh, golly. Why, Charles? You're still uneasy about her, aren't you? Well, yes. Don't be. She's all right. She's on our side. How do you know? Meg, I know. But why are we going to see her now? I want to find out more about that Tesseract thing. Didn't you see how it upset Mother? When Mother can't control the way she feels, when she lets us see she's upset, then it's something big. Charles, you know she's going to get in awful trouble. Mrs. Whatsit, I mean, if they find out she's taken Mrs. Buncombe's sheets. They could send her to jail. One of the reasons I want to go over this afternoon is to warn her and her friends. I'd forgotten about them. I don't really think they'll let anyone find out about them, but I thought we should mention the possibility. Sometimes kids go out there looking for thrills. Charles loves me at any rate. School awful again today? Yes. I get sent to Mr. Jenkins. He made snide remarks about father. I know. How? How do you know? I can't quite explain. You tell me, that's all. But I never say anything. You just seem to know. Everything about you tells me. How about the twins? Do you know about them too? I suppose I could if I wanted to, if they needed me. But it's sort of tiring, so I just concentrate on you and Mother. You mean you read our minds? It's not that. You tell me sort of inadvertently. That's a good word, isn't it? Mother looked it up in the dictionary for me this morning. I really must learn to read, except I'm afraid it will make it awfully hard for me in school next year if I already know things. I think it will be better if people go on thinking I'm not very bright. They won't hate me quite so much. Woof, woof, woof. Somebody's here. Somebody's hanging around the house. Come on. Woof, woof, woof. For crying out loud, call off your dog. Who is he? Calvin O'Keefe. He's in regional, but he's older than I am. It's all right, fella. I'm not going to hurt you. Sit, Fort. Okay. Now tell us what you're doing here. I might ask the same of you. Aren't you two the Murray kids? This isn't your property, is it? Tell me about him, Meg. What would I know about him? He's a couple of grades above me, and he's on the basketball team. Just because I'm tall. Tell us what you're doing here. What is this, the third degree? Aren't you the one who's supposed to be a moron? That's right. And if you want me to call my dog off, you'd better explain. Most peculiar moron I've ever met. I just came to get away from my family. What kind of family? They all have runny noses. I'm third from the top of 11 kids. I'm a sport. So I don't mean like basketball. Oh, so am I. Sorry. I don't mean like basketball. Neither do I. I mean like in biology. A change in gene resulting in the appearance in the offspring of a character which is not present in the parents but which is potentially transmissible to its offspring. What gives around here? I was told you couldn't talk. Thinking I'm a moron gives people something to feel smug about. Why should I disillusion them? How old are you, Cal? 14. What grade? Junior. 11th. I'm bright. Listen, did anybody ask you to come here this afternoon? What do you mean, asked? You still don't trust me, do you? I don't distrust you. You're holding out on me. So are you. Okay, old sport, I'll tell you this much. Sometimes I get a feeling. Well, you might call it a compulsion. And when I get this feeling, this compulsion, I always do what it tells me. I can't explain where it comes from or how I get it, and it doesn't happen very often, but I obey it. And this afternoon, I had a feeling that I must come over to the haunted house. Maybe it's because I'm supposed to meet you. You tell me. Okay, I believe you. I think I'd like to trust you. Maybe you'd better come home with us and have dinner. Well, sure, but what would your mother say? She'd be delighted. Mother's all right. She's not one of us, but she's all right. What about Meg? Meg has it tough. She's not really one thing or the other. What do you mean, one of us? What do you mean I'm not one thing or the other? Not now, Meg. I'll tell you about it later. Let's take Calvin to meet Mrs. Wetsit. If he's not okay, she'll know. Thump, thump, thump. Oh! No wonder this place has a reputation for being haunted. Quah! Knock, knock. Quah, quah! Eek! They get a lot of fun out of using all the typical props. Click. Creak. Come on, follow me. Mrs. Who, I don't think you should have taken Mrs. Buncombe's sheets without consulting me. What on earth do you want them for? Why, Charlesie, my pet, le corps de ses raisons, que la raison ne connaît pas. French Pascal, the heart has its reasons, whereof reason knows nothing. But that's not appropriate at all. Your mother would find it so. I'm not talking about my mother's feelings about my father. I'm talking about Mrs. Buncombe's sheets. So why do you... In case we need ghosts, of course. If we have to frighten anybody away, what's it thought we ought to? Thought to do it right. But we really didn't mean you to know about the sheets. Offrischertat German. In flagrante delicto. Latin. Caught in the act. English. As I was saying. Mrs. Who, do you know this boy? Good afternoon, ma'am. I didn't quite catch your name. Mrs. Who will do. He wasn't my idea, Charlesie, but I think he's a good one. Where's Mrs. Wetsit? She's busy. It's getting near time, Charlesie. Getting near time. Ab honesto virum bonum nihil detret. Seneca. Nothing deters a good man from doing what is honorable. And he's a very good man, Charlesie, darling, but right now he needs our help. Who? Ah, little Megsie, lovely to meet you, sweetheart. Your father, of course. Now go home, loves. The time is not yet right. Don't worry, we won't go without you. Get plenty of food and rest. Feed Calvin up. Now off with you. Justitia soror fides. Latin again, of course. Faith is the sister of justice. Trust in us. Now shoo. Charles, I don't understand. No, I don't either yet. Not quite. But you saw Fort, didn't you? Not a growl, not a quiver, so you know it's okay. Look, do me a favor, both of you. Let's not talk about this until we've had something to eat. I need fuel to sort things out and assimilate them properly. Lead on, moron. I've never even seen your house, and I have the funniest feeling that for the first time in my life, I'm going home.